Chosen one, you are being called to observe a significant moment in time. This is not simply another message. It represents a turning point. Many who find themselves here have arrived not by coincidence, but through a convergence of decisions, thoughts, and timing that reflects a larger shift currently unfolding across personal and global dimensions. Across the world, individuals are beginning to sense something changing beneath the surface, an unseen current disrupting established structures, beliefs, and systems. This shift is not intended to provoke fear, but rather to invite awareness. Those attuned to this energy are experiencing it as an inner prompting, a deep resonance that something monumental is taking place. They are not alone. There is growing evidence of what some refer to as a spiritual realignment or a global reset. This development is both internal and external, reflected in rising social unrest, questions about leadership, and an increasing number of people seeking meaning beyond material success. In parallel, many are reporting heightened spiritual sensitivity, renewed interest in faith practices, and personal breakthroughs, following long-standing periods of confusion or delay. This period can be understood as a dual process, one of challenge and one of transformation. As familiar patterns dissolve, whether they be institutional, relational, or personal, a new framework is emerging. For many, this process is deeply disorienting. For others, it offers the first glimpse of clarity after years of uncertainty. The instruction being offered during this time is not centered on dogma or fear. It emphasizes preparation spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. This preparation includes developing the ability to discern, to remain calm in the face of uncertainty, and to stand firm in values that promote healing, equity, and justice. A consistent theme has emerged in these spiritual commentaries. What you once hoped for, prayed for, or waited upon is no longer distant. The delay is over. The acceleration of personal transformation is now unfolding at a pace that often feels overwhelming. For those sensitive to energy or spiritual movement, this shift may appear as sudden opportunities, rapid personal growth, or even the unexpected dismantling of long-held beliefs or relationships. Such changes are not random. They reflect a larger recalibration process. Many are discovering that as one area of their life shifts, others quickly follow. It is as if internal decisions, clarifying a purpose, letting go of outdated thinking, or committing to a new path set, off-chain reactions that ripple outward into every sphere of existence. However, such transitions are not without difficulty. Disruption often precedes alignment. This is why discernment is necessary now more than ever. Some are being asked to step into leadership roles, not in the traditional sense of control or visibility, but by anchoring their communities in calmness, truth, and resilience. Others are being quietly prepared for tasks not yet revealed, undergoing personal refining processes that strengthen their emotional and spiritual foundation. In this context, the call to awaken takes on new meaning. It is not about elitism or superiority, but about readiness. Are you prepared to notice what others dismiss? Are you able to respond rather than react? Can you remain grounded in your values, even as the external world shifts around you? Those, often referred to as the chosen, are not separate or special in a hierarchical sense. Rather, they are individuals who have heard and responded to an internal call, a call to rise, to observe, and to participate in the reshaping of how we relate to ourselves, each other, and the divine. This awakening is not occurring in isolation. Across continents, a collective movement is forming. People who have never met, living vastly different lives, are reporting parallel experiences, a sudden interest in spiritual matters, an inner urgency to simplify, to reconnect, and to contribute to something larger than themselves. This is not coincidence. It reflects a deeper synchronization, a collective consciousness beginning to align in response to the imbalance of recent decades. While the exact causes are complex and multifaceted, the effect is clear. Old systems are weakening and new ideas are gaining ground. This includes systems of belief. For many, faith has long been mediated by institutions that prioritize control over authenticity. Now, those structures are being questioned. Their cracks are visible. This collapse, while painful, is leading to a renewal of spiritual life. Not less faith, but a different kind of faith. One rooted in personal responsibility, integrity, and a deeper connection with the sacred that transcends tradition or denomination. In this environment, silence and discernment become essential tools. Rather than amplify noise, the invitation is to observe, to listen, and to discern what aligns with truth and what distracts. The spiritual landscape is noisy, with many claiming titles and messages that may not be rooted in genuine alignment. As such, clarity is vital. It is not enough to hear a message. It must be tested, lived, and aligned with love, wisdom, and humility. Within this framework, the concept of being chosen takes on practical importance. It reflects a willingness to remain awake, to stand steady when others are swept up in fear or denial, to speak only when words can build, and to act when action serves the collective good. This does not mean perfection. It does not mean constant certainty. It means presence, a steady, grounded awareness that allows you to contribute meaningfully to the unfolding shift, even when the path is not yet clear. The current moment also brings to light questions of identity. Who are we, beyond roles, titles, or affiliations? What values guide us? How do we define ourselves when the external markers of success or stability no longer apply? These are not abstract questions. They are central to the transformation taking place. Many are discovering that the identities they once clung to are dissolving. Relationships shift, careers evolve, communities disperse, and in this stripping away, space is made for a new, more authentic self to emerge. But the process is not easy. Confusion often precedes clarity, and in the midst of societal upheaval, shifting norms, questions of justice, truth, and collective responsibility, many are tempted to cling to outdated frameworks simply for the comfort they provide. This is why courage is needed. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, consistent kind. The courage to sit with discomfort, to ask the hard questions, to release what no longer fits, and to step forward, one clear step at a time, even when the destination is not yet visible. Throughout history, every era of transformation has demanded this kind of presence from a core group of individuals. They are often misunderstood. Their insights appear too early, too inconvenient, or too confrontational for the status quo. Yet their influence, though subtle at first, shapes the generations that follow. You are part of that lineage. Whether you identify as a leader, a teacher, a healer, or simply as someone seeking truth, your attention and alignment matter. They contribute to a collective wave of transformation that is reshaping our world. This transformation extends beyond individual experience. On a global level, we are witnessing deep fractures in systems that once seemed immovable. Political structures, religious hierarchies, economic models, many are being tested under pressure, revealing weaknesses that have long gone unaddressed. Again, this is not cause for fear. It is cause for participation. These breakdowns are invitations to rebuild, not with the same flawed foundations, but with principles that reflect justice, equity, and integrity. Spiritual insight plays a key role in this reconstruction, not in a dogmatic or exclusionary way, but in a way that acknowledges the deep interconnectedness of all life. As old models collapse, people are returning to the essentials: truth, compassion, and responsibility. This is the beginning of a spiritual architecture that does not rely on external validation. It is rooted in internal clarity and collective care. It is informed by lived experience, not just inherited doctrine. And it requires participation from everyone, not just the outspoken or the public, but from every individual committed to living in alignment with what they know to be true. In this environment, discernment becomes a collective skill. Communities that once looked to external authorities for guidance are now learning to look inward, to listen to their intuition, and to weigh every message, claim, or invitation against their core values. This shift in authority from external to internal is a hallmark of spiritual maturity. It does not mean rejecting wisdom or tradition. It means engaging with it fully, examining it, and choosing what aligns with clarity and love. As we continue navigating this reset, many will feel the pressure to choose sides, to define themselves against others, or to adopt rigid identities as a way of coping. But the real strength lies in remaining centered, in choosing fluidity over rigidity, openness over certainty, and listening over declaring. This is how the chosen lead, not by force, but by example. Not by claiming superiority, but by demonstrating consistency, compassion, and presence. Their influence is not always seen immediately, but it is felt deeply. They become the steady presence others rely on during times of change. This is where Part 1 concludes. The shift has begun. The chosen are awakening, and the time to prepare internally, relationally, and collectively is now. As we continue this exploration of spiritual awakening in a time of global disruption, it becomes evident that the call to clarity is not just for survival, it is for contribution. Those who have sensed the shift are now being prepared not merely to understand it, but to live through it in a way that elevates not only themselves, but also their communities. The notion of awakening often brings to mind a moment of realization, a flash of insight, a breakthrough experience. But true awakening is not momentary. It is an ongoing process. It requires adjustment, endurance, and humility. Once awakened, the challenge is no longer to see what's happening, but to respond with stability, discernment, and integrity. This stage of the journey focuses on sustainability. Awakening without action leads to stagnation. Awareness without discipline fades. So now, the invitation extends further. How do we carry our spiritual clarity into the structures of everyday life relationships? Work, finances, and service? For many, this starts with reordering priorities. What once felt urgent constant productivity, external validation, material gain begins to feel less important. In its place arises a desire for alignment, to live in a way where actions mirror values and decisions reflect both wisdom and compassion. It also requires understanding your unique role. Not everyone will be called to speak publicly or lead large groups, but everyone has influence. The words you choose, the energy you bring into a room, the way you navigate pressure, all of these impact your environment. Quiet leadership is just as powerful as public leadership. In some cases, even more so. You are now being invited to examine the structures that support your spiritual alignment. What do your daily rhythms look like? Are your habits helping or hindering your clarity? Are your conversations reflective of your growth? These aren't questions of judgment, but of sustainability. Without rhythm, awakening burns out. Spiritual practices, whether prayer, meditation, journaling, or intentional solitude, become necessary scaffolding. They keep the structure of your inner life strong as external conditions continue to shift. These moments of quiet aren't escapes from reality. They're tuning grounds. They allow your internal compass to stay calibrated, even amid chaos. This stage also demands emotional maturity. The awakened individual does not only operate from inspiration, but from intention. Not every impulse is followed. Not every thought becomes action. Instead, discernment filters everything through the question, does this align with what I know to be true? In practical terms, this might mean slowing down, not rushing decisions, not engaging in every debate. It might mean stepping away from environments that no longer resonate with your spirit, not because of judgment, but because your alignment has shifted. You may find that some relationships cannot sustain your growth, that certain spaces no longer feel safe or true. This can be painful, but it is part of the recalibration. Growth often requires separation before it yields multiplication. Letting go does not mean failure. It means readiness for the next season. Within this framework, chosen ones are called to live not reactively, but intentionally, to move from a place of wisdom. This includes how time is spent, how energy is invested, and how boundaries are enforced. Remember, every yes is a seed. It plants direction. So the awakened individual learns to say yes only when clarity exists, and no when peace is compromised. The process of refinement continues through action. Clarity without follow-through leads to stagnation. That is why chosen ones are called not only to think differently, but to act differently. This might include decluttering a space to reflect inner order, reprioritizing financial habits to align with long-term integrity, repairing relationships, not through force, but through clarity and boundaries, developing a service. Practice, not for applause, but for contribution. These are not grand gestures. They are subtle, repeatable acts of obedience. The spiritual life is not always loud. Often, it is the quiet adjustment that carries the most power. Amid these individual transformations, a global pattern is becoming clearer. As systems of power undergo scrutiny and change, spiritual alignment is becoming a counterweight to chaos. The more individuals who live in clarity, the more stable communities become. This is not philosophical, it is practical. Consider the workplaces, families, and schools led by those with clear spiritual grounding. There is more peace, more mutual respect, and more courage in difficult times. These environments do not happen by accident. They are cultivated by those who choose alignment over urgency, integrity over image. This is where the collective transformation begins, not in declarations, but in demonstration. As more individuals walk in integrity, a quiet revolution begins to take root. This revolution is not violent. It is not reactive. It is centered, grounded, and persistent. From this posture, the chosen ones do not isolate themselves from reality. Instead, they engage it with renewed strength. Their presence becomes a stabilizer. Their discernment becomes a filter. Their obedience becomes an anchor dot, and through that, a new standard is established. One that does not depend on the world's approval. One that reflects internal clarity over external control. For many, the next challenge is not recognizing the path but staying on it. Spiritual fatigue is real. The pressures of modern life are heavy. That's why rhythm is crucial. A few sustainable practices include a fixed time for spiritual reflection, daily even 5 minutes. Weekly evaluations. What served my peace this week? What didn't? Monthly fast from noise, social media, excessive stimulation, or unnecessary dialogue. Quarterly retreats or time away, even if just 1 hour of solitude in nature. These checkpoints keep alignment from fading. They protect what's been built. They ensure your awakening matures. The most consistent threat to alignment is distraction. It often arrives subtly urgent opportunities that look attractive but pull you off center. When discernment is clear, distraction has less power. You recognize that every yes has a cost. Every choice plants a seed dot. You are not being asked to be perfect. You are being asked to be aware, to catch yourself earlier, to adjust faster, to rest deeper. Awakening without discipline is unstable. But awakening with structure becomes transformational. And the structure is built on obedience. What you carry is not for performance. It is for impact. You don't need to convince others of your clarity. Your consistency will demonstrate it. This leads us into a deeper understanding of identity. The chosen one is not a title, it's a posture. It is the decision to remain awake even when sleep would be easier. It is the commitment to ask difficult questions, to speak only when speech is necessary, to move with integrity when compromise is more convenient. As more individuals embody this identity, a collective standard emerges, and that standard transforms environments. This is how movements begin, not through noise, but through consistency. There will be moments where progress feels invisible. That's when trust must take over. The roots of transformation grow underground before they become visible. If you've been building silently, writing, praying, resting, adjusting, know that your work is not wasted. What is invisible today becomes unmissable tomorrow. Spiritual cycles do not operate on a 24-hour clock. They move with seasons. What matters is not speed, but alignment. If you are aligned, you are on time. If you are aligned, you are safe. If you are aligned, you are effective. At this stage, one of the most powerful decisions you can make is to protect your energy. Not by isolating, but by choosing environments that match your clarity. Surround yourself with those who encourage alignment, not chaos. Engage in conversations that build understanding, not argument. Consume media that nourishes your perspective, not manipulates it. Create routines that reinforce peace, not pace. This is how you protect the work. This is how you grow the seed. And as this becomes a lifestyle, not temporary behavior, you step into authority. Not the authority of control, but the authority of clarity. This clarity becomes your compass. It allows you to move confidently, even when outcomes are uncertain. You are no longer guessing. You are discerning. And through this discernment, new assignments will begin to emerge. You may feel prompted to mentor someone, to start a project, to apply for a role, to leave a space, to return to a discipline. These instructions will not arrive with fanfare. They will arrive quietly, clearly, and personally. Your only job is to respond. The awakened life is not glamorous. It is grounded. It is steady. It is focused. And over time, it becomes transformative. You are not here to simply survive this global reset. You are here to help shape what comes after. That is why the instructions were clear. That is why the process has been intense. It was never about punishment. It was preparation. You are now stepping into the phase of visibility. The part where what you carry begins to be recognized, not because of self-promotion, but because of divine alignment. Doors may open. Invitations may come. Connections may surface. Do not be surprised. You have been prepared. Stay humble. Stay grounded. Stay clear. Because as the world continues to shift, those who carry clarity will be needed more than ever. And you will be among them. This is not the end of the message. It is the beginning of a lifestyle, one marked by peace, precision, and purpose. Welcome to the path of sustained awakening. As we conclude this comprehensive look at spiritual awakening in an age of disruption, the focus now shifts from awareness to embodiment. Chosen one, the awakening has occurred. The signs have been recognized. The adjustments have begun. What remains is not another revelation, but the integration of all you've encountered. This is not a return to what was, nor is it an escape into abstraction. It is a call to live every day from the center of the clarity you've received. 2. Often, awakening is treated as an event marked by emotion, urgency, or dramatic change. But in truth, it is a gradual alignment of daily life with spiritual truth. This alignment, when practiced consistently, becomes lifestyle. That lifestyle becomes identity, and that identity becomes legacy. You have been awakened for a reason. But the reason is not simply to know, it is to become. To become a stabilizing presence in your environment. To become a quiet force for truth in your relationships. To become an example, not by speech, but by structure. This level of spiritual living is not defined by ritual, performance, or the accumulation of knowledge. It is measured by internal alignment. Is your outer life a reflection of your inner values? If so, transformation is not only possible, it is sustainable. Let's now explore the key dimensions of sustaining your awakened state. Moving beyond. Insight into integration. One of the most powerful tools for lasting transformation is rhythm. Not speed, not pressure rhythm. Awakening often brings with it a burst of motivation. In those early moments, it's tempting to overhaul every aspect of your life. But sustainable change happens in rhythm, not in chaos. This means creating a schedule that reflects your values. Not just reacting to what the world demands, but intentionally designing your time around what your spirit requires. Start small. A set time each morning for quiet reflection. A weekly review of your intentions and boundaries. A monthly practice of letting go of one unnecessary burden. These are not spiritual checkboxes. They are calibrations. They keep your system aligned. They prevent burnout. And they build long-term consistency. The awakened individual quickly learns that internal peace is not guaranteed. It must be guarded. This includes monitoring your self-talk. Are your thoughts reinforcing truth or undermining it? Controlling your inputs. Are the books, media, and conversations nourishing your clarity or cluttering it? Protecting your solitude. Is your time with self and the sacred being prioritized or pushed aside? Spiritual integrity is not just what you believe. It's how you manage your mental and emotional landscape. Chaos begins in the mind long before it touches your external world. So guard your peace with intention. Awakening without application leads to stagnation. That's why functional obedience is key. Functional obedience means implementing insight into everyday life. Examples include: if you've been shown the value of rest, schedule it without guilt. If you sense the need to exit an environment, do so with clarity. If you feel prompted to speak up, do it with humility and purpose. You are not being asked to perform grand acts. You are being asked to be consistent with the truth you've already been given. Obedience is not about submission to fear. It's about cooperation with wisdom. The more you practice it, the more refined your discernment becomes. An awakened life will impact relationships. Some will grow deeper. Others may dissolve. And this, though difficult, is part of the process. Integrity in relationship means communicating honestly, without manipulation, holding boundaries without apology, letting go of connections that thrive on confusion or control. This doesn't mean isolation. It means selecting alignment over attachment. When you relate from a place of truth, you make space for healthier connections to form ones that support your growth, not sabotage it. And in those new relationships, be the presence you once searched. 4. Grounded, authentic, and spiritually responsible. Awakening often reveals how deeply we've identified with roles, achievements, or labels. But these external identifiers are temporary. They cannot carry the weight of your soul. True identity is rooted in awareness, not accolades. So, ask, who am I without the role I play? Who am I when no one is watching? What values define me when comfort is stripped away? Your awakening allows you to rewrite the narrative of identity, not to prove anything, but to live authentically. You are not the same person who began this journey. Your language, your posture, your desires, they have evolved. Honor that at this stage, awakening transitions from internal alignment to external contribution. You become not only a carrier of peace, but a source of it. Not just a seeker of truth, but a communicator of it. This embodiment may show up through leadership that centers compassion over control, creativity that channels clarity into form, mentorship that encourages others without manipulation. Your role is not to save others. It is to be so aligned with your own truth that your presence inspires others to find theirs. You may be called to write, to build, to speak, or to serve. Whatever the assignment, your clarity will make the way. There is no need to force the door. What is aligned will find you. Not every season brings movement. Some bring silence. This is not punishment. It is preparation. During these times, stay rooted in your last instruction. Resist the urge to fill the silence with noise. Trust that unseen work is still unfolding. Delay is often the divine response to your readiness. It is not a no, it is a not yet. Continue your rhythm. Continue your alignment. When the next step is required, you will know. Awakening is not linear. It is cyclical. You will revisit themes, patterns, and lessons, but each time, with more awareness. Do not be discouraged by repetition. See it as refinement. Mastery does not come from hearing once, but from practicing many times. You may return to the same spiritual tools, prayer, journaling, fasting, but with new depth. You may hear the same messages, but with new application. This is how spiritual maturity forms, through repetition, not novelty. Finally, remember this. Your awakening is not only for you. It is generational. It is foundational. Every choice you make in alignment ripples beyond what you see. A child observes your emotional regulation and feels safe. A student learns integrity through your quiet leadership. A friend returns to truth because you refuse to compromise. This is legacy, not in wealth or titles, but in influence. You are now a standard bearer. You carry values that will outlive you. Let your life be a mirror of the clarity you've received. You are not here by accident. You've received instructions, made adjustments, and stepped into a new rhythm. The awakening was not just to inform you. It was to transform you. Now, you become the evidence. You become the person who walks into a space and brings calm, who navigates conflict with clarity, who builds systems with structure, who leads with humility and vision. This is not a performance. It is your life. And as the world continues to shift, it will not be noise that heals it, but individuals who walk in grounded truth. Chosen one, you are one of them. Continue, sustain, embody, and let your life quietly say what others are still searching to hear. You are aligned. You are assigned, and you are ready.